So the Green Bay Packers didn't sign that big name edge rusher. They didn't get necessarily the corner that we were all kind of expecting or anticipating them to go and get. And they didn't get that number one wide receiver out there. But the Green Bay Packers free agency just got better. Obviously, with the latest news that the Rams, because they were not able to trade wide receiver Cooper Kupp, who is an absolute stud. They have released him. They've dropped him, which means he is an available target for Brian Gutekunst and the Green Bay Packers to go out there and snag. Whether or not he's going to do it remains to be seen. But it is without a doubt the Packers will need. It is an issue. The Packers wide receiver room is certainly an issue because you're going to be without Christian Watson for at least half the season. And that's not guaranteeing that when he comes back, he'll be back, right? Because we don't know. Usually, when you're coming back off of an injury so long, you're going to have maybe some hamstring issues that have plagued him in the past. And then you've got Romeo Dobbs, who is he there? Is he not there? Is he all in with the Packers or not? Who knows quite where his head is at, which means the Packers, we need to get that number one wide receiver, that number one target out there. And whether that's going and getting a guy like Cooper Kupp or going and getting a guy like Emeka Buka in the draft, somebody that is realistically going to be able to fall to them, because it's not realistic that Brian Gutekunst trades up in the draft. Because if he did trade up in the draft, I'm wanting him to address the cornerback issue there. Now, Jair Alexander, um, you know, we don't know what the story is there with Jair Alexander, but we do know the fact that Jair didn't get traded. We know that he welcomed Nate Hobbs when he came into Green Bay. He welcomed him with a text. Doesn't sound like a guy that is necessarily wanting to leave. Of course, he's getting paid, so he's certainly not wanting to go anywhere. But the Packers, are they going to be able to restructure a deal to make it a little bit more appealing, seeing as though he's just really not been a reliable guy out there? But either way, if they are able to retain Jair Alexander, it seems unlikely that they're able to do that. But if they are able to retain this guy, I love him. I love Jair Alexander when he is healthy, when he is out there. Jair and Nate Hobbs on either side with our safety room could be exactly what the Packers secondary was needing. Okay, we don't have to move on necessarily from Jair Alexander, and it all points to we're either going to cut him June 1st or we're going to try to restructure a deal to keep him. But Cooper Kupp, leave your comments. Let me know that from an additional standpoint. Cooper Kupp, of course, have had his injury issues in the past, but I think it would take a 2-year, $22 million deal to get this guy under contract. And do the Packers have the money to do that? Yes, they do have the money to do that. They have the finances to go out there and make that happen. It may mean releasing a guy or two, but Cooper Kupp is one of those guys that is super consistent. He has an overall PFF score of a 71.2. I would welcome that with absolute open arms. Imagine Jaden Reed. Imagine Dontavian Wicks. Say Dontavian Wicks works on his hands, because let's not forget that the Packers had the second most or third most drops in all the NFL. The Jets were right ahead of them. And then you've got the departures of a few guys here. Let's not forget Eric Stokes, and they grade this in this article. Max Combs wrote that AJ Dillon going to the Eagles is an A minus for him leaving. I absolutely think that's an A minus grade. I agree with that grade because AJ Dillon wasn't really, playing for much of anything as far as money goes and compensation goes. But the Emmanuel Wilson has just been more productive, I think, than AJ Dillon, and a little bit more consistent of a backup. Let's not forget we've got a rookie that we haven't seen yet in Marshawn Lloyd. So then you've got Eric Stokes leaving. That's an A plus. That is not an A minus. That's an A plus. He just did not get the work done. He goes to the Raiders. We exchanged Eric Stokes for Nate Hobbs, a much improved upgrade there. And then you've got center Josh Myers going to the Jets. That's a B plus of a grade. I agree with that. That's a B plus. It's not quite an A. I think Josh Myers, just given the fact of what we were able to get in return and go out and sign and throw $77 million at somebody. I do know it's not guaranteed money, so that is good news, kind of similar to the structure we did with Josh Jacobs out there. But I do think it is a very good move. We do let go of TJ Slayton, which means we do need a replacement tackle, but I think the Packers are pretty deep there, and I think they can address that through the draft. In my opinion, I think they just need to go out and get a stud edge rusher, even if it's just a 1 year guy. They need additional help until somebody else develops into that. To me, whether it's Brenton Cox Jr., maybe he develops into that guy that looks like that consistent dude. But I think you need that veteran piece this year, opposite side of Rashawn Gary. I certainly think that that is needed as well. Leave your comments, and as always, go Pack, go.